Number 22 of NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing starts right now. Welcome inside the Concord, North Carolina studios here just north of Charlotte. As always, my name is Chris Wilner. Kyle Rickey with beautiful Stafford Motor Speedway behind him in the backdrop joins us for another episode. Kyle, big week for you guys. I don't have to, really, it's kind of an understatement how big this week is with SRX in town. How are preparations going? The weather looks great, I think. What are we expecting here this week?
First off, I can't believe we've done this 22 times already.
Yeah, I know. Time
20,
flies when you're having fun, though.
it does. Yeah, preparations are right on track. A lot of fun stuff planned, both behind the grandstands and then in front of the grandstands with the new video board. And it's going to be a lot of long days here leading up to Saturday. The weather looks 50-50 right now.
Okay.
We're hoping Mother Nature decides to play into our favor here these next couple days, but Friday night's going to be great. We have an open modified race. Ryan Preece will be here. Ryan Newman will be in the field, along with, I think, 27 others, 29 or 30 on the entry list right now. So, yeah, it's going to be a big weekend. And then SRX, as you were alluding to, on Saturday.
So you also went and saw Poison this weekend. How was that show? You're just everywhere.
Well, and I was telling my parents this week. It's really cool to have two of the biggest entertainment complexes in the country right up the road with, Foxwoods Resort Casino being one of, I think, the second largest casino in the world, and Mohegan Sun being up there in the top 5. And they both have these massive arenas. So Lionel Richie on Saturday night and Poison on Sunday night. So two pretty good shows this past weekend.
That is a heck of a lineup, but we got a great show for you folks at home. Alan Bestwick, the voice of SRX, will be joining us here via Zoom coming up in just a little bit. It'll be really interesting to talk to Alan. Obviously, he's been a part of SRX now in its second season. Pick his brain a little bit, maybe see what he thinks about what's going on so far. Obviously, a lot of drama coming out of South Boston. I'm sure a lot of that's going to carry over into this week as well. And then Kyle Soper, how about the big winner out at Riverhead Raceway this past weekend with the NASCAR Wheel Modified Tour, his first ever career win. I can't imagine how happy Kyle's going to be on the phone line here coming up in a little bit. And I tell you what, may not count him out for the next trip to Riverhead either. I think once you win one in front of that kind of crowd, in front of that talent of a field, he may win another one. So we'll see. So we've got a couple great guests coming up for you. But as always, we're going to kickstart off with our Coast to Coast top seven winners of the week. I will kickstart it with the guy we just mentioned, Kyle Soper, becoming his first career NASCAR Wheel Modified Tour Series win, breaking what is almost an old enough record as my age, not quite, 1995, the last time a Riverhead regular won against the Tour Modified Series regulars out at Riverhead. Kyle did it in dramatic fashion, having to go up against two of the toughest competitors in the field, including three-time champ Justin Bonsignor. Kyle, I watched that on Flow. Really cool to have, like, the underdog, which it's hard to call him an underdog because he's a three-time track champion, but still, for him to get the win, it was huge.
Yeah, it's his home racetrack, and usually, well, I say usually, it's been a while since we've seen it. You just mentioned 27 years, but this is where they can get it done. They have, for whatever reason, the drivers that aren't on the tour full time have a tough time coming into places like right here at Stafford or the Thompson Speedway, some of the bigger racetracks, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and getting the win. But a quarter-mile tight bull ring like Riverhead Raceway kind of levels the playing field a little bit if you know the nuances of getting around it. Kyle Soper does, a three-time champion, and was able to fend off one of the best. And like you mentioned, a dramatic finish the other night with Justin Bonsignor hot on his hip.
We'll dive into that conversation with Kyle coming up in segment number 3. Kyle, who do we have for our top 7 number 2 winner of the week?
How about the roll that Sammy Smith is on? Keep them on rolling. Last weekend at the Elko Speedway, the smallest oval the ARCA Menard Series will visit in 2022, had to hold off Jesse Love in the closing laps to claim his second consecutive ARCA Menard Series win. So congratulations to Sammy, picking up yet another checkered flag, this time on the national stage for ARCA.
Absolutely. And shout out to Landon Pembleton, too, getting his third place finish in his first ever ARCA Menard Series race. So that's pretty impressive in itself. All right, our coast-to-coast top 7, number 3, I've got Marc-Antoine Camirand, who dominated the Pro Line 225 at Eastbound Speedway, a really cool facility, first time ever they've been racing in Newfoundland, and he put on an absolute clinic in front of a great crowd out there at East Bay. And I tell you what, it was fun to watch because I think the crowd really appreciated the performance that he put on. You know, oftentimes you get guys that dominate and, unless they're a crowd favorite, they don't really get that a resounding applause. But for a guy who led like 300 and some laps this year
Yep.
and hasn't won, I think the fans really respected that.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time before he got that checkered flag and did it at a new location for the series, held off Trayton Lapsevich at the finish to get that win. It was really cool to follow the series along and a lot of the teams during the week having to load up all the equipment onto boats and ferries and get them over to Newfoundland. First time that they've had to do that, but a great little racetrack. I hope the series is able to go back there in 2023.
Absolutely. Talk about logistical nightmare, though. I'm so proud of everybody at the Pinty Series for getting that done, because certainly, like you mentioned, it's a lot of travel for a lot of teams to get on those ferries. All right, our Coast to Coast Top 7, number 4, I've got Tony Stewart. For obvious reasons, the defending SRX champion gets back to his winning ways. South Boston Speedway put on one heck of a show this past Saturday night, or Friday night, and I tell you what, he not only dominated the race, and I thought was the best car, he also had quite the off-track personality, I guess maybe a little bit of fisticuffs, if you want to call it, grabbing Ernie Francis Jr. by the collar like a 5-year-old scolding his, like a dad scolding his child. And it was really interesting to watch kind of the vibe between him and some of the other drivers, but a lot of contact. But Tony Stewart gets it done. I think he may start a roll. Maybe he can go 2 for 2 as champion here in his own SRX series.
Can't wait to see Uncle Tony here at Stafford this weekend. Yeah, he and Ernie Francis had a coming together in between the heats and the features, and then they tore up a couple of more cars in the feature with Tracy and Michael Waltrip. Got into the outside wall hard, so they're trying to get those cars patched back up, put back together, and back on track here in just a couple of days' time at Stafford. But it's going to be a long week, a lot of long days for the SRX crew to get those cars put back together. And I think Tony's message was, hey, we want to have an entertaining race, but we can't tear these cars up this early because we still have 4 races to come and are all in consecutive weeks.
And I think that goes along with what our debatable segment on Go or No Go is going to be about, aggression on the racetrack. You'll hear about that coming up. Kyle, who you got for number 5 on our Coast to Coast Top 7?
About another driver that'll be here on Friday night, Ryan Preece will be back behind the wheel of a modified, but last Friday night, he was behind the wheel of the David Gilliland Racing number 17 truck at the Nashville Super Speedway for the second consecutive year. The modifieds in the short track world were represented in victory lane at Nashville Super Speedway in the truck series with Ryan taking the checkered flag.
Let's go back to back. Who you got for number 6?
Number 6, we're going to go with Garrett Evans. Picked up the Mark Galloway shootout win this past weekend in the late model at Evergreen Speedway. Dominated the event in front of a great crowd at Evergreen there on the West Coast. Won by over a straightaway over Randy Marshall. So congratulations to Garrett, a name that we have talked about a lot here on the show over the years, and continuing to rack up those wins over on the West Coast, this time in a prestigious event at Evergreen.
Absolutely, and that race once again was on Flow. Evergreen Speedway, absolutely beautiful facility out there on the West Coast. All right, wrapping up our Coast to Coast Top 7. Number 7, I've got Hunter Robbins, that elusive super late model win with the Southern Super Series at Tri-County. I mean, a dreamlike season for Hunter, who's picked up a number of big pro late model wins. I mean, Alabama 200, the Show Me the Money at Montgomery. He won at 5 Flags earlier this year, and now he gets a Southern Super Series win. And not only a win, climbing up the point standings behind the one and only Stephen Nasse, only 18 points behind. So talk about a surge of momentum for Hunter Robbins, cementing himself as one of the top drivers, young drivers here across the country.
Yeah, I feel like every other week we talk about Hunter because he races about every other week, and every time he enters, he seemingly wins. We had him on the show earlier this year, and you mentioned it a moment ago in a great description. It has been a dream season for Hunter. Good to see him and the family. The victory lane photos, obviously Johanna, his wife, a longtime NASCAR competitor, and I think we're going to see her. I think he told us we'll see her back behind the wheel several times this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that does it for our Coast to Coast Top 7 winners of the week. Congratulations to everyone who was either named or obviously if you've picked up a checkered flag over the course of the last week across the country, congratulations. Now, we do have some shout-outs for those of you that are honorable mentions. I'm going to go ahead and just cheat and go have 2 because one technically is not NASCAR roots, but tip of the cap to Jade Avedijian, first female to officially capture a national midget feature win this past week at Jacksonville, Illinois, with the Extreme Outlaw Midget Series run by World Racing Group. So cool for her, the whole Chad Boat Industries team. you could see the emotion on her face. It takes a lot. It's not easy to win on dirt at that level, no matter who you are. And certainly for Jade, she had to wheel with some of the best and was able to put on some really good moves there over the weekend at Jacksonville, Illinois, and get her first ever national midget win. Taylor Reimer, if have been following some of the dirt stuff, is getting credited with the win at Millbridge after a disqualification for a tire sample failure for Cannon McIntosh, but unfortunately that's not really been official yet, so Jade beat her to it by doing it on the racetrack there at Jacksonville, so congratulations to her. And I also have William Swalich, we had on the show a couple weeks ago, second Cars Tour Pro Late Model win at Tri-County. That was in conjunction with the Southern Super Series. And he's the only repeat winner in the Cars Tour Pro Late Model Series, the first ever inaugural season for that group. So another young superstar in the making here. Kyle, who do you got for a shout-out?
I'm going to go with a promoter, Chase and
Yeah.
Carly Bratiers at South Boston Speedway. By the looks of it, and following them all week last week, leading into their SRX event, did an amazing job of the promotion of the race and then the execution of it. The crowd was spectacular. I think it was a sellout. If it wasn't, it was pretty darn close. A great event, and they get to have another big event this weekend, and we'll talk more about that later with the late models as the Virginia Triple Crown opens up with their big 200-lap late model event. So one of their biggest events of the season. So Chase and Carly, they've been pounding the pavement here the last several weeks getting ready for SRX, and now they have to back it up with their biggest late model event of the year. So tip of the cap to them, because I know it's not easy, especially back-to-back major events, especially leading it all off with SRX. So great job to them last weekend, and best of luck to them this coming weekend with their late model event.
Absolutely. Those are our shout-outs of the week. Kyle, we did have some big news before we get to our go or no-go. How about Dale Earnhardt Jr. officially submitting his entry to North Wilkesboro Speedway in the Cars Late Model Stock Tour event that's going to come up in August. Points-paying event, and Dale was out there testing last week, and he said, absolutely sign me up. I can't imagine the crowd at North Wilkesboro, a place that he's been so fond of, trying to get it back, and now he's going to be in the race.
I hope it's full. I really do. I love North Wilkesboro Speedway. Unfortunately, when officials brought racing back there, I think in 2010, so 12 years ago now, the racing was great. Crowd wasn't so great, and I think that's why there was only one or two events that year. I was able to attend the modified event. Chase Elliott, I think, won the late model race that was there that weekend. But to have Dale behind what's going on, to have SMI behind what's going on, there's a lot of powerhouses in the sport behind North Wilkesboro Speedway right now. So I hope the competitors show up, the teams show up, the fans show up, and it is a great month for the most part of August of racing there, and then they'll do it again October when they convert it to dirt.
That's right. Yeah, it's gonna be absolutely crazy to see the transition of that place over those couple of months. All right, go or no go, Kyle. We just have one topic for you here on this debate segment, and we alluded to it a little bit when we talked about SRX, but that series was built around getting all of our championship drivers that are not racing full time, or maybe they are in other series, but putting them all in the same equipment, going out there and putting on an entertainment show for the fans. What did we see at South Boston? Well, we saw Elio dump Paul Tracy. We saw Ryan Hunter-Ray get into somebody. Tony Stewart got into somebody. I think Marco was involved in something. A lot of torn up race cars. Have we crossed the line? Go or no go? Have we crossed the line to where the entertainment value now has just become a demolition derby? Do we like that? Go or no go?
Go, I think. I don't think we've crossed the line.
Okay.
I mean, it's a short track series in front of full house crowds. I mean, it'll be almost 10,000 people here on Saturday night. It was probably the same amount at South Boston. It was probably the same amount at Five Flags. And I mean, we had a great race here last year. The place went nuts when Marco Andretti went to the inside of Doug Coby, who was to the inside of Tony Stewart, and they were three wide all the way around the racetrack behind me. Fantastic race. We had just enough yellow and incidents to keep people's interest. Michael Waltrip spun early. I don't think Paul Tracy started his streak of wrecking everyone yet. I think that happened a week or two later after the Stafford event. But it was the inaugural race. The storylines are great, but I'm okay with bumping and banging. I mean, that's what the short tracks, I mean, that's how we promote short track racing. So yeah, it sucks for the crew guys this week to have to put those cars back together, but when you go to a place like South Boston and you go to a place like Five Flags and you come here to Stafford, I mean, you have to expect it. It's just 12 cars, but I get it. It takes a while to put them back together, but you still want the most excitement and the most bang for your buck from those 12 drivers on the racetrack.
See, I'm going to disagree with you. I say no go, and for the only reason is the type of aggression we're seeing. We're not seeing this bump and run, final couple laps, maybe elbows up a little bit, putting somebody in the wall. We saw Elio Castroneves come back 4 car lengths on like lap 4 of a heat race and just not lift. And so part of me is just like, okay, is that like a little too much? Is that really warranted? And obviously then you go into the factor of they don't have the resources a lot of NASCAR teams or some of these other series that they can throw backup cars in the trailer or things like that. I mean, heck, CEO Donald Hawk was on his hands and knees in a T-shirt and jeans with a grinder out there in the shop this week, and that's not normally what he's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be running the series from a business side. So I think that shows you that it's all hands on deck. And like Tony Stewart said in his post-race interview, there has to be a level of respect. We obviously want there to be an entertainment value. We get it. You guys are all racers. You want to win. But some of the stuff is just like a little too much. And so I think we don't want to let him go a little bit longer because then at this point, it's going to be last man standing, almost like King of the Hill. And that's not really what they want to see. So I say I'm all for the aggression. I'm all for the post-race interviews we saw on CBS with Paul Tracy wanting to punch Elio and Tony Stewart with Ernie Francis Jr., but, some of the stuff on the track goes a little bit too far for me. I'd like to see it reasonably being done for position late in a race or a transfer spot or something like that. So it'll be interesting. We're 2 weeks in. Certainly it's ramped up since last year, so we'll see what happens in your backyard there at Stafford. I cannot wait to watch it while I'm at Road America.
It's going to be a good weekend. Going to be fun.
Yep.
I hope there's at least a little contact. I hope.
Oh, there will be. You know it.
I hope last weekend doesn't tame everybody down a little bit. Sure,
absolutely. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what Alan Bestwick has to think because Alan is on Zoom and he's coming up on the other side of the break as we talk to the voice of SRX as they get set to tackle Stafford Speedway here coming up this weekend. That's coming up next on NASCAR Coast. You're watching NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch the Wheel and Modified Tour, ARC Menard Series, Pinty's, and NASCAR Weekly Tour races all season long on flowracing.com. Subscribe today. And welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing here on the Motor Racing Network. Joined now by the voice of the Superstar Racing Experience on CBS, Mr. Alan Bestwick, longtime veteran NASCAR IndyCar announcer as well, and former MRN announcer as well. So welcome back to the airwaves here on MRN. How you doing?
I'm doing great. A lot of great memories and a lot of good times along the way. A couple of them hanging on the wall behind me, as a matter of fact.
So we're 2 weeks into the season here on SRX, and I certainly am loving the entertainment value this year. I think we just saw it at South Boston. A lot of rough and tumble, a lot of elbows up, a lot of tempers flaring. How would you assess the first 2 weeks as we get set to go to Stafford this weekend?
As intended, fun. That's the whole intention of this, right? It's racing entertainment on a Saturday night, and it's been fun. If you think back to where we were a year ago when we went to Stafford for the first race, you had a fleet of race cars that had never been raced before. You had a group of drivers who had never driven this kind of car before, even though it's kind of a stock car chassis. It's not an oval track chassis. It's not designed to help you turn left. It's designed for the drivers to have to figure that out on their own. So you go through all of that. And in these last 2 weeks to watch Elio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan racing for the lead down in Pensacola, to watch, Elio again and Ryan Hunter-Reay and some of the other guys do what they did Saturday night in South Boston. It's really fascinating and really fun to see how much these guys have adapted to it and how much fun they're having doing it.
One thing that we talked about in the first segment of the show is the line of the rough and tumble racing that we saw Saturday night, what Tony was talking about, having to put these cars back together, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So in your eyes, and being at every event thus far, what's acceptable? And, you talk to these guys every week.
Well, it's interesting because one of the dynamics everybody's still figuring out is how you move someone. When I talk about a Castro Neves or a Hunter Ray or a Kanan, short track racing is not their background. For somebody like Tony Stewart, that's a natural thing that he's been doing for how many years? I mean, okay, take away the open wheel part of his career, because you don't want to be bumping in an open wheel car. But that kind of subtlety and what you do to move someone up out of the lane, you see it all over America on short tracks during a racing weekend. But for these guys from open wheel racing, it's a totally new thing for them. So I think part of what Tony's talking about is, where is that line? Ernie Francis doesn't have a lot of experience in a stock car. Trans Am cars don't quite race like that. And what he's doing now, Indy Lights, they don't quite race like that. All these other guys. So I think that's the thing, is these guys look and say, okay, it's acceptable to use the bumper to move somebody out of the way. But where is that line between all's fair in short track racing and too much and we're all wrecked here?
And going along with that, Kyle mentioned the difficulty now it is on the SRX team to put these cars together, get them cleaned back up, things like that. I think fans at home don't realize, these aren't individual teams with shops back in North Carolina or whatever that can easily have a backup car ready to go. I mean, this is a small group that's responsible for putting all 12 cars back together. Have you felt any of the concerns talking with some of the crews and the officials like Donald Hawk, who I saw on Twitter was on his, in jeans and a t-shirt with a grinder getting after it in the shop as well? What are some of the concerns in terms of just the turnaround time, as we still have, 4 straight weeks still to go?
Yeah, I think, last year, basically the SRX crew lived on the road. Ray Evernham left North Carolina with 16 race cars and a crew and came to Stafford, and they never went home again until we were done 6 weeks later in Nashville. They're operating it a little differently this year. First of all, with Ray stepping back from a day-to-day involvement, they've gone back to the shop in Mooresville. They have an SRX shop in Mooresville around a lot of the NASCAR teams and so on. They've gone back there between Five Flags and South Boston. They went back there literally after the race in South Boston Saturday night. They didn't sleep in the hotel and drive back Sunday morning. They went back Saturday night and came in and started on it. Now they've got to go from there to Stafford, which is not an easy drive across the whole Northeast corridor and across the New York City area. So it's a short week to start with for getting the transporters out of Mooresville, if that's how you're going to do it. Now, I didn't take stock of a fender count or anything of what work has to be done. But besides the regular maintenance from racing week to week that has to be done on all 16 of those cars, now you got to fix a lot of them up. And I think that's what Tony was a little hot about is, hey, you have to understand the difficulty for getting these cars through 6 consecutive weeks of racing. It's a big ask. It's a tough job. It's doable. We saw last year, but yeah, I'm sure when they show up at Stafford tomorrow with the transporters and the cars, there'll be some bags under the eyes, and we'll have some good stories to go pursue about how many hours into the night they burn to get all these cars ready to go.
Are you excited to see how this series has evolved since night number 1 last year at Stafford Speedway, when we had no idea what was going to happen, and now coming back here a year and 2 weeks later for the 3rd race of season 2?
Yeah, Kyle, it's literally, it's no exaggeration to say we had no idea what was going to happen when we showed up at Stafford a year ago for race 1. I said this just a minute ago, but we had race cars that had never been run in a race. They'd been built. They did a test with a couple of the cars, right? They'd never been run in a race and never been run a race distance. You had a whole new thing to go through. If you could document what was learned from race 1 through race 6 a year ago, season 2 started with all of that knowledge in the books. And you've seen it on the racetrack, right? The advancement in the driver's understanding of the cars, because most of the drivers came back from last year, the advancement in the cars themselves, a lot of knowledge gained. So, coming back to Connecticut this time, way ahead of the game in terms of preparation. If you remember, after we ran the Stafford race a year ago, the format was adjusted because we ran way longer than we thought we were going to run. and we found out we needed a couple of longer breaks in the show, just to, to turn the cars around for the main event between the two heats and so on. So just what was learned in operating the evening was huge last year, and coming back to Stafford that much further ahead of that curve, it'll make it a much less stressful night. And not to elongate this answer, but particular huge props from a year ago go to the Arute family. They took on this project, and week one of this project, when I tell you that CBS showed up at Stafford a year ago, 8 days before the race, to begin piecing it all together, and now they show up 2 days before. That's how much everybody got the hang and figured out and so on. What the Arute family did for SRX a year ago, I'm excited that they get another shot at it as one of the two returning tracks, and that they're not the first one in line this year. That, the machine is a little more well-oiled on everybody's part, from SRX, from CBS, and so on, when we roll into Connecticut this weekend.
On this show, we like to highlight, NASCAR Roots Racing, a lot of the short track racers, up and coming to their shot at the big leagues. And SRX has really given that platform to them, lighting the local heroes like a Bubba Pollard, the Peyton Sellers. How much fun is it for you guys to watch those drivers being able to find success at the SRX level, especially ones that are able to win, like what Ernie Francis Jr. did last year and so on, and how much more of an emphasis are you guys putting on the local heroes at each track you visit to?
Well, Ernie's a little different story. I mean, Ernie was a 7-time Trans Am champion.
Yeah.
Who just had never gotten the national recognition for all of his accomplishments. And he'll tell you what being included in our superstar lineup did for him a year ago for his career. I mean, look, he's one step below the Indy 500 with support from Roger Penske right now with the Force Indy team in Indy Lights. The local hero angle of it, 100% Ray Evernham's idea. And it requires a couple of things in setup. Spotlighting short track racing in America is amazing. I mean, think about this. On CBS television network, Saturday nights in prime time, we're going to some of the greatest, most historic short tracks in the United States. And there's probably a significant percentage of the audience, even if 100% of the audience are race fans, there's a significant percentage of the audience who have never seen or heard or watched a race from these speedways. So the opportunity to do that is tremendous. Now, these guys, the local hero, first of all, gives the local fans a rooting interest. Second of all, it gives a guy or a gal who's enormously talented and very successful at their local track a chance to race against Indianapolis 500 winners, Daytona 500 winners. There may be a Formula One driver show up in the field somewhere down the road too. So all of those things. Peyton Sellers, 6-time track champion at South Boston, 2-time NASCAR national short track champion. And he skipped a point race in his fight to repeat as national champion and regional champion, because to race against those guys at his place, he said, that's a once in a lifetime memory. You can't miss that. Now, he didn't have the greatest night because he found out that driving the SRX cars was nothing like driving the late model stock that he's used to driving, even at his home track. But, Doug Colby will tell you the memories he made last year for winning at Stafford, and the noise those Stafford fans made seeing their guy beat all of these superstars. It was an ingenious part of the formula that was created by Ray to make this whole thing what it is now.
And he too missed a points paying event last year when the modifieds were in action, and he made the commitment to race here, and boy, did it pay off. And we had a great interview with him earlier this week at Stafford, just reliving that entire experience a year ago. My final question for you is about the fans. I've seen a lot of pictures with you on social media these last couple of weeks, taking pictures with folks in the grandstands. What is their response when you roam the grandstands and the midways of these racetracks?
The fun part about this is, first of all, getting the chance for me to go back to places that maybe I haven't been to in a lot of years. I'll use Nashville Fairgrounds as an example. Did races there, in the 90s and the 80s, and the chance to go back and see that place full and sold out and the atmosphere. Stafford, full and sold out. It's been special. When we left the booth that you're sitting in at Stafford a year ago, walked down the grandstand and down the midway toward the parking lot, every single person I encountered was smiling and happy and saying, man, what a good time that was. And that's been repeated every step of the way. South Boston last Saturday, we went down in the infield and hung around with some of the drivers for a little while after the race, let some of the traffic clear before we started to drive back to the hotel. An hour and something after the race ended and we went off the air, came back up through the grandstands. There were still people sitting there saying, man, what a great time we had tonight. It was so much fun. So that's the neat part of the whole thing. The drivers are having fun. The fans are having fun. I know we're having fun making television, and it's been a remarkable experience. It's everything that Ray told me it would be, and then some.
And my final question goes along with the broadcast. What about this year with your teammates, with Connor Daly, who's been electric in the booth? You have Willie T. Ribbs, Lindsey Zarniak, Matt Yoakum. I mean, how has that cast of characters been with you guys this year, getting along, and the energy of the broadcast from your point of view?
All fun, all good people, all people I had a relationship with before. I'll tell you, the people that get the real credit are the people from CBS in New York, who a lot of whom had never done an auto racing broadcast in their life until Stafford a year ago. And people who jumped in, and by week 3, they had it, they understood it, they were passionate about it, and asked to come back for season 2. Now, these are people that SRX comes right before they start NFL. And they go from preseason week 1 all the way through the Super Bowl without a breather, most of them. And then they go right into the NCAA tournament, college basketball, and then the Masters, then they get a short break, and then they jump into SRX again. And they all wanted back in. Those are the people that deserve the credit, real TV pros, and what a great group they assembled, and a lot of fun to be around.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Alan. We look forward to Stafford this weekend. Safe travels. You'll have to take a selfie with Kyle, and we'll post it on our show when you get up there this weekend.
I suspect that'll probably happen a time or two, and going to be a fun atmosphere. Sold out place Saturday night again.
We'll have a great broadcast. Alan Bestwick, ladies and gentlemen, SRX voice, and we'll see him at Stafford as they get set for round number 3 of the 2022 season on Saturday night. Alan, have a great rest of your day, and safe travels up to Stafford.
Thank you.
You're watching NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch the Wheel and Modified Tour, Arc Menard Series, Pinty's, and NASCAR Weekly Tour races all season long on flowracing.com. Subscribe today. And joining us on the line here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing, is the one, the only, Kyle Soper. Big winner at Riverhead Raceway in the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour Series. First career win, breaks 27 years of a Riverhead regular beating the Tour Modified guys. Kyle, are you still on cloud 9 here as we sit several days later?
Yeah, slowly coming off it. Still getting a lot of texts from a lot of people. So it's a nice reminder when you get them. But yeah, it's just such a great night, and trying to enjoy it as long as we can.
Take me into your mind those last couple of laps. You're out front. You've had a great night. You got some of the best behind you, including Justin Bonsignor.
Yeah, so I started reeling them in. I got by them, and then I think it was maybe like 8 to go after that. I'm just praying that the caution doesn't come out, because I didn't know which lane I was going to pick. Inside, outside. The outside was preferred, but if you give the inside, then you're leaving yourself vulnerable to getting kind of booted out of the way. So luckily the caution never came out, and I never had to put that through my mind. So the laps clicked down, lap cars were in front of me. Luckily they got out of the way, and we brought it home.
What was it like climbing out of the race car, hearing the fans? When did it sink in for you that you accomplished what you just did? Because I know it's been a long time coming. You've done 14 races there at Riverhead with the tour guys, and you've come close, but you finally did it.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that, because like it is my home track, right? So at first it kind of just felt like another win, and then when it really sunk in, it was actually Sunday in my girlfriend's pool. I was like, oh wow, that's something. It was big, and I mean, it was great hearing everybody cheer, and then seeing my guys run down the track coming over to me, because it means just as much to them as it does to me racing for Wayne, and seeing his face and his joy was just was over the moon. So it was a great night, and I wish we maybe in September we could do it again.
What about having experience at Riverhead helps the regulars or the drivers that grew up there? I know we say 27 years, but you can say Justin Bonsignor pretty much grew up at that racetrack. It's his home racetrack, and he has found a lot of success there over the years. But what is it about growing up there, knowing that place, maybe knowing how to deal with lap traffic, as you mentioned, allows the guys that have raced there so much to have success on the tour?
I don't know. Maybe it's something in the water, but it's just kind of knowing where cars are going to go, the trends of the track, right? So we started off down low, almost below the line, looking for grip. And then as the race progressed, it moved up. I was almost in the second groove. There's a lot of grip up there. So I was trying to rip the top, and luckily it happened. But I don't know, like Justin, Timmy, we all raced go-karts there. I didn't race against them. They're a few years older than me, but we just grew up there. We learned the track by, it's like the back of our hand. So it's fun to race those guys now, being that we're like, the same age bracket now, but back then we weren't. So yeah, it's just great to beat those guys and then have them come over to me and congratulate me. It was great.
I was going to say, what was the coolest congratulatory either text message, phone call, or maybe somebody coming up to you that kind of blew you away a little bit? Because I can't imagine how many text messages you had after that race.
Yeah, I got numerous. Doug Kobe messaged me, Matt Hirschman messaged me, Timmy, like I said. But the one that actually stuck out to me the most was just a fan came up to me and said, not everyone's a Kyle fan, but tonight they are. So, you made the whole track proud, and that kind of stuck with me. And whether it's true or not, I like to think it is.
We mentioned a moment ago, you're a multi-time track champion there on a weekly basis. How's your 2022 season going as we hit the month of July this weekend?
Yeah, so it's been a weird year so far. We've only raced 3-point races. It's rained out the other ones. So I won opening night. The second night I got third, and then the third one I got up to third, and I got taken out by a guy. But so I am the point leader, I think, by 1 point, but still a lot of racing to go. Anything could happen, and hopefully we'll have similar success as we always do.
Have to talk to you going back to the race weekend. I know, listening to post race, you mentioned Jimmy Blewett was big in terms of helping you with qualifying. I know that's kind of been the Achilles heel when the tour guys come to town. What was the difference? What was something that he told you that really clicked with you and your team?
It was really just minimal things to do. It's just a qualifying just to get us 2 laps. So put rubbers here, little shock adjustment there. It really just got us up front because, like they said in the broadcast, I usually start 15th to 18th. So by the time I get up to the front, I kind of burnt my tires up. So starting up front really gave me a crutch and helped me get to the end with the tire saving.
What's it like driving for Wayne Anderson, somebody that's been around modifieds forever and ever and ever, a champion on the tour, has won for many teams over the years, back in the 80s and 90s, and now you get to drive for him?
Yeah, we call him Uncle Wayne because he'll get us anything we want. Him and his wife Joette, they're great. Anything we need, he just goes and gets it for us. So he gives us all the tools. My dad and I, put it together. With another guy, Butch, Gene, and Tom, we got a good team going. Like I said, anything we need, he just gets it for us. And he understands, he tells me either checkers or wreckers, so the times that I bring it off on a wrecker, he's not happy, but it makes up for it when we get the trophy. So I'm very grateful to be racing for him.
It's like that guy, Ricky Bobby said, if you ain't first, you're last, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Speaking of Wayne, after this huge win, obviously one of the biggest of your career, does anything change with your guys' schedule, or are you going to kind of keep the same? Like, what does the next, month or so look like? Obviously, you mentioned September when the tour comes back, you'll be there to defend it, but what else is on your calendar here coming up the next couple months?
Well, we race at Riverhead every week, so we kind of get locked in there, but I got my eyes on maybe going to Thompson in August. I think that's a Wednesday race, so maybe we can make that one. Once the season's over, we'll try to get out, maybe go back to Thompson in October. I could beg Wayne to maybe to go back to Martinsville. But but yeah, that's pretty much what I got my eyes on right now. I'd love to go to Wilkesboro, but I don't think we could probably make that one, being that it's a Monday, Tuesday event, and with Thompson being right there. So, but yeah, Riverhead's our main focus, and keep that going.
And my final question for you is I guess, with Riverhead running every Saturday night and you're obviously running for a championship, how difficult is it to get off Long Island and to get to some of these other events at, a Thompson or Stafford or, some of these New England races?
Yeah, like I said, we'd love to get out, but racing every week, it's almost a second job because we spend every night in the shop getting it ready. So it really is the stars have to align to get off the island. And so hopefully in August we can, but as of now, it's just straight Riverhead.
Well, congratulations.
And it's not easy.
Yeah.
No,
it's not easy at all.
If you miss the last ferry, a lot of these guys like watch the clock. It's like, all right, the last ferry's at 9 or 10 o'clock, and if we don't
that's the thing with Thompson in August. It's gonna be the best race is the one back to the ferry.
Right.
So, well,
you guys need to put a GoPro on or something as you're trying to hustle to get on the ferry.
You don't want to see that.
We're all dicing each other up on the track, and we dice each other up going down 95, whatever the road that is.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Well, Kyle, congratulations, man, on all the success. 3-time track champion, but I'm sure this one, that trophy is going to be what, first on the mantle there?
Yeah, it's that one. Then close seconds, the ISO 300. So they both look pretty close, and they look good. So very grateful for what Eddie and Connie Partridge and Tom Gatz have done for Riverhead with John Elwood. They all they made that place great, and really look forward to racing there every week.
Well, congratulations again. Look forward to catching up with you hopefully down the road, and good luck on your pursuit for another track championship, man. I can't believe that'll be already number 4 already.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
That's Kyle Soper joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. You're watching NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch the Wheel and Modified Tour, ARC Menard Series, Pinty's, and NASCAR Weekly Tour races all season long on flowracing.com. Subscribe today. All right, NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing. Kyle, that means it is time for the calendar, the Go with the Flow schedule of events for Independence Day weekend. I can't believe it's already into the month of July. ARCA West Series out at Irwindale Speedway for the second time in 2022. 6th race of the calendar year. Tanner Reif won it. We had him on the show last time they were there. But Kyle, it's all about the points leader, Jake Drew.
By 35 points, had a great West Coast or a road course swing. I guess all the races are on the West Coast, but good road course swing in the rain at Portland. And then at Sonoma a week later was able to open up his advantage to 35 points. Can't wait to see what this series can do at Irwindale. It was a great show a couple of months back when Tanner picked up the race win, and should be another good event this Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time on Flow.
Yes, late starts. You'll be able to catch up on all the other events going on Flow, and then have a little nightcap. Make sure you have an extra cup of coffee on Saturday and check out ARCA West at Irwindale. Now, ARCA Menard Series, they're off this week. NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour off this week. NASCAR Pinty Series off this week. So not a lot of national events going on, but boy, there's a big one. Back-to-back big weekends down at South Boston. This is the Harley-Davidson 200, Kyle. The first leg of the Virginia Triple Crown for the late model series. And South Boston should be lit up again with a bunch of fans because that's a really, really fun race to watch.
Yeah, we talked earlier in shout-outs about Carly and Chase Brashears, the promoters of South Boston, coming off of one massive event in SRX and jumping into another. Record car count, a bit of a new format this year that was released earlier this week for the 200 lapper. For the late model, it is round 1 of the Virginia Triple Crown, the Thunder Road Harley-Davidson 200. All of your favorites are entered. I think there's approaching 40 late models on the entry list. Race number 2, just a couple of weeks away, the Hampton Heat at Langley Speedway on July 23rd. And then we wrap it up, as always, at the Martinsville Speedway, September 24th, with the Valley Star Credit Union 300. So some of the best late model racers in the country going to convene in Virginia here for this Saturday night's competition. Going to be a great race. And again, live on Flow Racing.
Absolutely. And Tempers Flare and SRX in South Boston. Can't imagine there's not going to be some hurt feelings out there in the late model world as well. And speaking of SRX, we had Alan Bestwick on the show. Don't forget, Stafford Speedway on the map as the place to be on Saturday night on CBS Sports Network. You've got all the best and of the best, really, championship race car drivers. And obviously, Matt Hirschman going to be the local hero We'll see if he can pull off what Doug Kobe did, Kyle. I don't know. You got confidence in Matt?
I do. I do. He knows his racetrack well, maybe not as well as Doug, who, started his career here in 1997 and in late models, won a championship in late models, won a championship in pro stock. So he had fendered experience here along with the modified experience. But Matt has a lot of momentum on his side. Won, obviously, the Napa Springs Sizzler back here in April, earning the ticket into the SRX event. Going to be fun to watch. I think it's not going to be as easy for him as I think it was for Doug. I'm not saying it was easy for Doug, but
Sure.
made it look easy at times.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have Tony Stewart and Marco Andretti and Helio Castroneves breathing down your back a year ago, and he was able to, take the checkered flag. So it was fun to watch, and I can't wait to see what Matt can do on Saturday. Friday night, kind of a prelude event. The GAF Roofing 80 lapper for the Open Modifieds will take place here. Part of our Friday night program, along with our 5 weekly divisions. Ryan Priest will be here. Ryan Newman has entered in the race, so that's going to be a big deal as well, I'm sure. Michael Waltrip gave the command to fire engines last year, and we only got the command because he was wandering the front stretch kind of aimlessly.
Yeah.
The driver intros were happening. He was out there with his phone. We're like, hey, do you want to give the command? Sure.
Why not?
Maybe
Maybe he was trying to get some more people to try some of his Waltrip Brewing brews out there.
And I wouldn't surprise me if that happened over the weekend here on both Friday and Saturday.
So basically, you need to be out there Friday and Saturday, because Friday, not only are we going to have great racing, you never know who you're going to see in the stands.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Haley Deegan. She's going to make her first SRX start of the season. She'll be here most of the day on Friday, as will a lot of the guys. I think Justin Marks is the only one that I know of that won't be here Friday, because he is actually running a Trans Am car Friday and Saturday morning at Road America.
That's right.
Flying here to Hartford after qualifying, and then flying back either Saturday night or Sunday morning for the Trans Am race at Road America on Sunday. So he has a lot going on. Then he's going to play team owner on top of the pit box for the Cup race on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, he's going to need a lot of coffee. That's for sure. That is a busy, busy weekend. But I'm super excited for you, Kyle, and for everybody at Stafford. Can't wait to watch it live on CBS. Again, 8 o'clock on Saturday night. But they also have their Friday docket, as Kyle mentioned, with the Open Modifieds. And then we've got a ton of local racing. Bowman Gray Stadium is off this week, so the Madhouse is going to take a nice breather after some intense racing they've had. But Hickory's back in action. I don't know if you caught the highlights, but there was a nice little chokehold going on at Hickory during their Twin 25s.
I did. Somebody got turned off of turn 2 and on the backstretch, and they both climbed out. And before you know it, both were on the ground.
Yeah.
One driver on top of the other, and it took a few seconds anyway. I don't want to say a few minutes, but it took long enough to get them broken up. Took a couple of the crew guys, and then there were crew members running onto the racetrack from the infield, and one of them almost got beat up. So quite a couple of moments there at Hickory, but you'll have that this time of year when it's 95 degrees outside. Tempers will flare.
Yep, just blame it on the heat. That's what I say.
That's
just
right.
say I got a little hot in the car. All right, Kyle, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend out there at Stafford Speedway. We cannot wait to watch it all, whether it's on CBS or on Flow Friday night. So you have fun doing that. I will be at Road America, NASCAR coverage on MRN. We have the Henry 180 NASCAR Xfinity Series race on Saturday. Then obviously the Cup Series back for a second straight year at America's National Park of Speed. Sunday afternoon, 2 o'clock Eastern start. We will be on the air at 1 o'clock on MRN. So it should be a lot of fun. Kyle, I cannot wait to recap all things Stafford next week. You have a great rest of your week. You fans at home have a great week of racing. No matter what you're watching, we'll be here to talk about it next week on NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing. You're watching NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch the Wheel and Modified Tour, ARC Menard Series, Pinty's, and NASCAR Weekly Tour races all season long on flowracing.com. Subscribe today.